It was like kind of like a dance workout class. So
I would like to make it up better
yeah, it was a little
authentication.
I get more out of it.
Top of the line.
I really like it.
Was the church doing this stuff?
Yeah.
It's like it just
Because that way you know you're actually showing.
yeah.
Instead of just straight.
Like other ways which are more of an infringement.
So, yeah, that's right.
That's kind of the system best for
Not that I love the back. Yeah, I just thought it was inefficient and frustrating.
Time 7 o'clock, I call this session of the Whitewater Student Government to order. If you're able, please rise alongside me as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wonderful. And with that, Madam Clerk, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Senator Carter.
Present.
Senator Genetti.
Present.
Senator Bueller.
Present.
Senator Lang.
Present.
Senator Lieber.
Present.
Senator Marty.
Present.
Senator Major. Senator Petrikis.
Present.
Senator Purnell.
Present.
Senator Reber. Senator Reyes.
Present.
Senator Schmidt. Senator Schrockmagel.
Present.
Senator Thompson.
Present.
Senator Vanderhyde.
Present.
Senator Wheaton. Speaker Wilson.
Present. Wonderful. And with that, we are going to move around a little bit to item B of special order, starting with the appointment of one Drumlin District seat. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for a Drumlin District seat? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, with that, we'll move on to item C, the appointment of one Esker District seat. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for an Esker District seat? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move on to item D, appointment of 4 off-campus district seats. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for an off-campus district seat? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we're on to 2 Rock County district seats. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for a Rock County district seat? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we're on the appointment of 1 at-large senator. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for an at-large senate seat? Wonderful. Thank you very much, sir. You can join us up front. Please be sure to recite your name to President Bradley on the way up. And if you could stand just stage left of the flag there. You'll have 3 minutes to tell us a little bit about why you want to be the next senator of the Whitewater Student Government, name, major included. The time starts when you begin to speak.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Punzel. I'm 26 years old. I'm a criminology major with a minor in psychology. I want to support the student government because I firmly believe that all students should have a voice, no matter where they come from, regardless of what city they're from, because we also serve not just Whitewater, but also the entire University of Wisconsin system.
Mr. Speaker, that's I am Charlie. Wonderful. With that, we'll move into questions. Are there any questions for the candidate? Senator Marty.
What would be the best way for all of the fellow senators to support veteran affairs, and how should we make sure we understand the needs and thank them for the service as their time as Veterans Day is coming up? So you memorize the memorial.
So that's a very interesting question. So to start off, veterans as a whole, we are mostly an independent group, usually try to solve issues by ourselves first. So to better support veterans, one thing I would recommend is just actually talk to them. Because we don't bite, we're always friendly. And then as for the second part of the question, honestly, just the best way to thank veterans for their service, just remember we exist on this campus. I feel like one of the biggest groups that's commonly forgotten that attend here are veterans.
Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, with that, we'll move into a secret ballot vote. You can vote for the name on the screen, aye or nay. Please do your best to keep heat at a minimum, particularly right as we break into a bow.
Keith.
In a vote of 4 to 9 to 1, the senator is not confirmed. So with that, we will move on to guest speakers. We'll start with Sam Blake of the PD Foreman Pride Center. You can come join us up front at the podium.
Thanks.
Slides are up.
And it works.
Slides are up and they work.
And it works.
Oh,
goody. Perfect. Clicker.
The podium is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for inviting me to chat a little bit about the Pride Center this evening. I was also asked to share a little bit about the climate survey data that we took for 2023-24 and how it pertains to LGBTQ plus identities. So I'm actually going to start there. And I think the first one of the most salient things it showed us is a general sense of the LGBTQ plus population here at UWW. Between 21 and 26% of the survey respondents identified as belonging to at least one of these following categories. I won't read that all for you, which is why we have this range here of the 21 to 26, because the survey did not have a mechanism to understand intersecting identities, right? So if anyone listed 2 or even more of these identities, right, they would still be counted in each category. So we are left with a bit of a range and a bit of guesswork to that population. However, I will note that it aligns with the 20.8% of Gen Z that identifies as LGBTQ+. The survey offered us a snapshot on a whole host of issues pertaining to student experience and wellness at UWW. And pretty much across the board, with a few exceptions, depending on the category, the responses were generally lower not response rates, but the feedback was generally less positive of an experience for students who identify as LGBTQ+, right? Most notably on the questions of UWW support for student academic success, gender non-conforming students ranked the institution significantly lower in the following areas: student success, engagement of contact between students of different backgrounds, support for overall well-being, helping students manage non-academic responsibilities, and holding events that address important social, political, or economic situations. And across the board, gender non-conforming students were among the lowest respondents in terms of experience with UWW. In mental health, we saw alarming rates of mental health concerns among LGBTQ+ students. And I would note that overall, UWW students responded with a 2.9, right? And that's on a 1 to 5 scale. In this case, 5 being feeling the healthiest from a mental health perspective, 1 feeling the least healthy, right? So overall, the student body is hovering just below the midpoint. And as you will see from the following numbers, LGBTQ+ students offered a variety of 2s, all lower than that 2.9. And we're among the lowest among all student identity groups. And I won't read through all of this to you, but essentially, on the questions of inclusion, LGBTQ+ students found most notably, well, overall, actually, at this bottom point, 50% of all Warhawks, right? All students report having heard a student make a negative comment about a social group, right? That rate goes up to 76% for gender non-conforming students, 78% for trans students, 64% for bisexual students, 66% for gay and lesbian students, and 65% for other sexualities. It also is at 73% for international students, 61% for students with disabilities, and 65% for students with mental illness. So. Finally, an overall snapshot of experience and belonging. LGBTQ+ students rank their overall evaluation of UWW moderately to significantly lower than their peers. That's including their general experience and whether they would recommend coming here to others. And finally, trans and gender non-conforming students feel significantly less that they belong to our campus compared to their cisgender peers. So, that is a snapshot of what we found in the climate survey. I will note there were some positives, which I did not write. The positives being our institution, even among LGBTQ+ students, is doing better than the other anonymous UW schools that we were compared to. Right, so we don't know who that was, but they were schools that are in system that are of a similar size to us, right? So we were generally doing better than they were on a whole host of metrics. And so, and this is the part where I depart from the slides. The other thing I was asked to speak a little bit about is the peer education program in the Pride Center. And we are going through a bit of a reimagination process for the peer education program in the Pride Center. This has traditionally been, right, where a group of undergraduate and sometimes graduate students elect to join the peer education program. They are student employees, right, of the Pride Center. And we have traditionally gone across campus on an invitation basis to various classroom settings, departments within campus, and offering a variety of panels on LGBTQ+ experience, right? So a peer-to-peer way of doing education and outreach was the idea. We are finding that even in politically more hospitable climates, there were issues with doing that work, right? Including students in the audience openly laughing at the panel and other unfortunate occurrences, right? And so we've just really been taking a bit of a moment to check in with ourselves about how we can continue this work in other ways, and we are continuing to explore that. And it doesn't mean we've also stopped doing panels. We've done a couple we have done one this semester. We have a couple more that we are preparing for. So we look forward to continuing that reimagination process. And I'm happy to answer questions about that if you have any, and I'm happy to answer additional questions about the Pride Center. But I would turn it over to you to guide me in what you want to hear about.
Wonderful. With that, we'll move into questions. Senator Martin?
So, from that information that you've been saying, we are seeing a lot of concerning numbers and data points that I'm honestly very worried about. How do I make what responsibility do we have to make sure that we can help you out as best as we possibly can?
I appreciate that question. Well, I would say you're doing it right now. One, thank you for having me here, right? The Pride Center is entirely funded through the segregated fee process, and that process has been well supported, right? The Pride Center feels well supported in that process, so we appreciate that support from members of WSG. I very much appreciate the ongoing relationships that I have with WSG. So I think a lot of it is keeping lines of communication open, right? And continuing to work together to address those numbers, right? They are institutional problems, right? Not just our institution, but they are systemic institutional problems, right? So they're not going to change overnight, but they will, I think we can see movement on them over time.
Any other questions? If not, I have one. So this is, it just kind of interests me personally. So the Pride Center in nature is very co-curricular. And I'm sure you don't have particular data to pull up on this, but how much of the interaction with the Pride Center is of folks who are engaging with these kinds of identities in an academic way? Like, how many of those folks are women and gender studies majors? That's just something that's of particular interest to me.
Yeah, and I would love to get numbers on that. I don't have specific data. I can say anecdotally that students who tend to gravitate towards employment in the Pride Center definitely are not all WGS majors by any means. They actually come from a whole host of majors and minors throughout campus. But I think it speaks to the desire to put identity in conversation with academic pursuit, right? So for peer educators, we have students in education, we have students in social work, we have students in WSG, right? All fields that constantly have to do that kind of navigation of how do I navigate myself in my professional role, right? And so I think, yeah, it is that co-curricular aspect of the Pride Center is deeply important to me. It's one that I keep hoping to expand as we grow. Is what are the other ways, educational opportunities that we can find within the Pride Center?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Senator Dooley?
Concerning like the 21 to 26% of students being LGBTQ+. Was that study the entire campus or most of the campus, or was it just a small group?
The study was campus-wide. It was offered campus-wide. There were just over 1,000 respondents, right? So that gives you a sense of who chose to respond, right? So obviously the next time that comes around, plug it hard, right? Because I would love to see those numbers go up so we see a better sense. Unfortunately, we also don't have institutional data about LGBTQ plus identification, right? Unlike some other identity-based groups where the university tracks via admissions, we don't ask questions on our admissions forms about LGBTQ plus identity. So we can't compare that 21 to 26% with students who indicated that they identify as LGBTQ plus when, say, they enrolled, right?
Any other questions? Once? Senator Brown?
How has the current political landscape shaped your work in the Pride Center?
That is thank you, a great question. Even before the current political landscape, right, in its most immediate form, LGBTQ plus people, and especially LGBTQ plus youth, were facing significant mental health challenges compared to their straight cisgender peers, right? That has been true pretty much consistently. What we are finding is that those numbers are going up, right? Those are national numbers, not campus specific, but we have to assume that this survey is already wildly outdated, right? And it's just from 23, 24, right? For one example, after November of 2024, the Trevor Project, which, if you're not familiar, is the National Suicide Hotline for LGBTQ plus youth, saw a 300% increase in call volume, right? So I think the current climate is an acute one, right, in terms of a particular challenge of navigating how do we best support students in this time. Yeah.
Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Come on by whenever. We love having you. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we share an office wall. So that wall with all the cabinets on it,
Yeah.
that's the wall we share. So,
I love the music choices that you all.
thank you very much. With that, we will move on to the approval of the agenda and minutes, starting with the minutes from October 20th, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve? Senator Thompson?
Motion to approve.
Second by Senator Reyes. Can I get a voice vote? Any opposed? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, the minutes from October 20th have been approved unanimously. With that, we'll move on to the agenda for October 27th, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve? Deputy Speaker Patricia.
Move to strike Senate oath of office.
Can I get a second? Seconded by Senator Lang. Any voice vote on that?
Acclamation.
Any opposed? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, it's been struck. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for October 27th, 2025? Senator Lieber.
Motion approved.
Seconded by Senator Lang. Can I get a voice vote?
Acclamation.
Any opposed? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, the agenda for October 7th, 2025 has been approved unanimously. With that, round of student issues and concerns. Are there any student issues and concerns in the gallery? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, round of reports, starting with external committee reports, we'll go right to the Chancellor's Committee on LGBTQ+ Inclusive Excellence. Senator Purnell, you have the floor whenever you're ready. You can join us up.
Thank you. Can I remember whether or not we decided we were going to all come up here or not? So, good evening. The Chancellor's Committee for LGBTQ plus Inclusive Excellence met on Wednesday, October 15th. What took place was an incredibly somber meeting as we discussed the Dr. P. Foreman Award for Outstanding Efforts or Achievement on behalf of the LGBTQ plus people. Dr. P. Foreman is a name held close in our hearts here at Whitewater. Dr. Foreman served Whitewater as a professor of psychology, focusing her work on underserved communities, privilege, and domestic violence. She played a fundamental role in implementing a system-wide campus climate study, along with the creation and development of the Universities of Wisconsin's LGBTQ+ initiative. An ardent advocate for the LGBTQ+ community, Foreman kept pressure on the system's administration to further their support for LGBTQ+ students. In 2007, Dr. P.B. Foreman's life was tragically cut short by an accident on the interstate. The Dr. P.B. Foreman Award for Outstanding Efforts or Achievement on behalf of LGBTQ+ people has historically been a way for the Universities of Wisconsin to honor her legacy by uplifting those who have made outstanding contributions to a community Foreman held so near and dear to her heart. In the spring of this year, the Board of Regents decided to suspend this award indefinitely, citing budget concerns, despite the award containing no monetary incentive. This was a decision made quietly without informing the universities or Foreman's life partner, Susan Simmons. The committee reached out to Simmons to hear her perspective and received a heartbreaking letter detailing her emotions after being subject to this betrayal by the Universities of Wisconsin. In this letter, Simmons advocates for the reinstitution of the Dr. P.B. Foreman Award for Outstanding Efforts or Achievement on behalf of LGBTQ+ people, as well as the Outstanding Women of Color in Education Award, another recognition that has met the same fate. Earlier this semester, the committee decided that the Dr. P.B. Foreman Award would continue to live on Whitewater's campus. This award is to go to a university staff or faculty member whose actions further a sense of belonging and inclusivity among those in the LGBTQ+ community. Nominations must be given with the consent of the person nominated, and self-nominations are permitted. There will be no winners for 2025, with the awards returning in the spring of 2026. I yield my report.
Any questions?
Can student government propose a way to re-incentivize a new, an inclusive award that makes sure we prioritize a vision to make sure that everyone matters?
Sure.
Yeah.
There are plenty of ways we could do that. I feel that the steps that the university is making towards reinstituting this award in particular is a big step. However, as a senator, you are welcome to write legislation that encourages further awards and incentives.
Director Smith?
Are you okay if I provide some more context?
Yes.
I can also share, Max, that the Chancellor's Inclusive Excellence Committee, which I serve on, also has a series of faculty and staff awards related to inclusive excellence on campus. So emails will start circulating soon for nominations for this, so keep an eye out for that too.
Okay.
Vice Vote?
Another piece of information, if I may. There's also an award in the Involvement Awards that's called the Mary Beth Mackin Commitment to Diversity Award, or Commitment to Inclusion Award, pardon me. That is given out annually as well.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice, seeing none, thank you so much. With that, we'll move on to internal committee reports, of which we have none, and thus to officer reports, starting with the report of our president, Dr. Sam Bradley III.
Good evening, everybody. I got lots to report for you all. So the first thing I will say is, as you may have seen, heard, noticed, Gavin Kelleher is no longer a member of the Whitewater student government. Parker and I are beyond grateful for the work he accomplished as the Associate Director of Student Affairs, and we wish him well as he moves forward. But with a little information on that, tonight at 7 p.m. an application opened on Connect 2. An email will be going out later, and it will close at noon on this Wednesday for anybody interested in filling that position. Like I said, more info to come, or please send me an email to WSG Press and we can get you that form. Also add lots of meetings last week, so please go through my report, as well as a couple meetings this week. Deputy Speaker Patricus and I had the Operations Director of Search and Screen with the students Tanya Schmidt. There was also, I had an impromptu 2-on-1 with Ryan Callahan and Warren Smith. The Communications Committee met, Student Affairs meet tomorrow morning. Lots of great stuff with Warhawks Vote, parking, safety, those committees will all be meeting, as well as the Chancellor's Committee on Student Success. And as you know, there is an election coming up, so I do have some elections meetings this week. Cabinet will meet, have an MLK Week committee. NULP deliberations will continue. The Warhawk Dining Advisory Board meets on Friday. At the same time, the UC Advisory Board meets. Those are the meetings coming up. As promised a couple weeks ago, I have a draft of the budget for you all to review. Director Linden will hand out some copies. Giving you a copy so you can get your eyes on it. This will be the budget that we'll be submitting to SUFAC before the November 2nd deadline. So this is for your reference. The request looks a little different. These aren't the same line items that SUFAC uses, but we use. So keep that in mind. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield. Once everybody gets a copy of the budget.
Any questions? If not, I can start with one while you peruse the budget. When you say more information to come about the application launches, what does that mean?
You'll get the application in your email.
Yeah.
Sit down.
What are some ideas so you're trying to get a net zero?
Back smart?
Yeah, sorry. I apologize.
No, go ahead. I'm
What
just
are some ways
recognizing.
of trying to have a net zero way of the budget? So you have the money and you don't overspend, so you keep the budget at the same equilibrium.
We do that. One of the ways we do that is we have a gala interview that brings in a little bit of money for us, but also keeping an eye on what we're spending. It has not been an issue in the past for us.
Any other questions? Sorry, go.
How do these e-board bonuses work and how are they different from last year?
Sure, so as you recall, the budget committee got together 2-3 weeks ago, 2 weeks maybe. And we recognize that our directors are putting in way more hours and much more work than what they're being paid for. Many other contracts say they were gonna work 10 hours a week. They're at least working 15, oftentimes 20 plus hours. And so we realize that they're gonna need a little pay bonus. But also recognizing that it's kind of the nature of their role and just kind of what happens, what cards were dealt. That some directors per semester, per year, put in more hours and have more meetings and more late nights than other directors. So rather than giving a blanket pay increase to all of them, I forget, was it Jordan, was it your idea? It was somebody's idea in the committee that people seem to be on board with, that we have a line item for bonuses instead. That the president, in consultation with the vice president, would award as they saw fit to make up for the fact that some directors are going to do more work depending on what happens. Should that money not all be spent, it would be reabsorbed by SUFAC and other contingency fund.
Sorry, dude.
Is $3,000 the total fund or the maximum amount bonus?
Both. Right, there's a pool of $3,000, the president and vice president will determine how to spend. I can't imagine one director receiving a $3,000 bonus, but I suppose it could happen. If that answers your question. Senator Leary?
So you thought that the directors got needed a pay grade, and the clerk doesn't get as much either, and I feel. Yes, the clerk, I think, should probably get a bonus too, since she has a big workload as well. I think that's a little uneven.
Yeah, so if you look at fiscal year 26, the clerk is at $4,500. Fiscal year 27, which is what we're going to be requesting by November 2nd, there's a $500 bonus that is built into the clerk's salary that's not built into the directors. And then, as you notice, the bonus line item is for e-board. The clerk is a member of e-board. So, as a former director and somebody who works very closely with directors now, and all due respect to the directors, sometimes if we're sick or we're something for class, we can take a few days off or a week off or Monday night off. If the clerk wants to take some time off, things go crazy. We can call the meeting and go, who's going to do this and who's going to do this, and all the minutes have to go on, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So we agree that the clerk should receive a bonus in their line item, and then they're also subject to the bonuses line item.
Thank you.
And the reason they were included in the bonus line item was there was a couple of years ago, the clerk was used as an additional director and did a lot of parking work for us.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator Ryan.
Is the president and vice president then to be an unpaid position, or is their salary not on this budget?
Fantastic question. I knew it was going to come from somebody. The president and vice president are paid out of a different account. So they're not paid by SUFAC. That's why you don't see anything.
Senator Thompson.
What's the travel funds for? Are we expected to be traveling this year?
Great question. There's many of us who travel every now and again, typically up to Madison. So that's essentially gas money for when we have to go up to shared governance meetings and things of that sort. Anybody how you got that number? SUFAC recommends, or SUFAC has approved, that they will cover 45 cents per mile. So we did the math. A round trip to Madison is about 120 miles. If we do that 3 times that 45 cents, it gives us $162. So it gives us about 3 trips to local areas. It used to be a very large fund. When I was a first-year student, the president and vice president went to Vegas for a conference. I can tell you we're not doing that. But it's for meetings if we have to ever go to, typically Madison, for things in that range, and also cover areas like Milwaukee and whatnot.
Any other questions? Miguel, what is election support for?
Sure, so last year we had nothing budgeted for election support, and then our wonderful director of intergovernmental affairs decided to print some things, and so it looked like we overspent on that line item. Was ready to spend like $30-40. And so we built it in for should there need to be printing for elections or things like that. Also, we do support Warhawks Vote, so that funds can be used there. We also left it really ambiguous. That's just the word election. So we use it in any election, WSG, state, federal, local, things like that. Typically, you're going to see it as printing, I'd imagine.
Wonderful. Any other questions for the president? Once, twice, seeing none. Wonderful. With that, we will move to the report of our WSG advisor.
Hi, everyone. Not much for the report, but just to say thank you to all of you who attended homecoming and His Majesty for winning the royalty. So, but do appreciate all that. If you have some feedback about what you liked or didn't like about homecoming, You certainly can send that to me, but there will be an email that will go out to folks that you'll get. Please give us that feedback. The last pitch for that is I would also share with you, along with 20 other positions on the University Center that are seeking applications if you're looking for employment. Sorry, shameless plug. The Homecoming Steering Committee interns. They finish their work, they run from January to December. So if you're interested in providing that type of warlock experience to other people, know that that's a paid position out of student activities and employment. And other than that, I would just share that there are some longer meetings coming through our SUFAC process. So the Segregated University Fee Allocation Committee is starting their work. Just as you just looked at this budget, they'll be looking at like 80. And so I'm going to start my nightly, weekly session of saying the questions tonight were excellent. Know that the SUFAC committee is doing that work for you, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be curious and look at the materials that they'll provide to you in a couple weeks to take a look at those individual budgets and come to those meetings prepared. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, I'm happy to talk to any of you about how you might prepare for the SUFAC review and approval meeting. But that's a time where we cannot work fast just because you're going to leave. We have to make sure that you're taking into consideration all the viewpoint neutrality training that you had several weeks ago, and that you're applying it to millions of dollars in that setting. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield to questions.
Any questions for our advisor, Deputy Speaker Chair?
Is it true that I am very good friends with the SUFAC chair, who happens to be a great resource on SUFAC?
I can't speak to how good your friendship is with the chair of the SUFAC committee. I'm guessing it's pretty good since it's you. But I would encourage you certainly to speak with Senator Patricus, but also I would encourage you to leave him alone for the next couple weeks unless you have some specific questions. So feel free to use any of us as a resource, especially those folks who have been through the process before. It seems a bit daunting, but it's not very complicated. It's something that everybody can understand. So yes, I do believe you're a very good friend to yourself, Nick.
Any other questions? Once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move on to e-board reports, starting with the report of our Director of Academic Affairs, Abby Ryan.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a great homecoming weekend. So last week, we had an Academic Affairs Committee meeting, and we discussed some things that were helpful for our meeting with Marissa, the Director of Advising. So we discussed the communication audit that the committee put together. So thank you again for all your work with that if you're on the Academic Affairs Committee. I also had a discussion with Jessica Stein, the Interim Director of Career Services, still continuing that work. And there's the first Student Advisory Board meeting this Wednesday for that. And then some homecoming events as well. As for this week, I had a discussion about graduate assistantships with Dean Vick. And then I probably send it tomorrow. And then I just said the Student Advisory Board. Friday is the Curricular Innovation Workshop. So that is from 8:30 to 2-ish. You don't have to be there the whole time. If you are interested, you still can go, and you can see me after the meeting if you have more questions. And then MELT deliberations and SUFAC. And with that, I yield to any questions.
Any questions for Director Reiser? Seeing none, please read Associate Director Olivia Dress's report. She's not present. So then moving on to the report of our Director of Student Affairs, Paul Smith.
Hey y'all, I'm not gonna talk through all of the meetings that I have, but know that I do have more than I have in the past. So please know that my schedule is a little more packed than it was at the start of this semester. I just want to give a quick overview of some of the current projects happening in student affairs land. The biggest thing is the safety walk. You all should have received a little form in your emails that went out campus-wide. It's very open-ended on purpose. So please fill it out and encourage your constituents to fill it out. It's very easy because you can opt in to however much engagement with that survey you want to. But this really helps us inform what is our safety walk, which happens every fall. The Student Affairs Director organizes different campus administrators as well as some of our organization leadership to go around in response to some of these more urgent concerns
and have their ear for about 2 hours. And we take them around campus to show them exactly what the student experience is and what students are seeing. And our route for that is determined by responses to the forum. So it's very important that we get responses to the forum. Beyond that, my committee and I are working on Mental Health Week, which will be exciting. It will be the week of the 11th through the 14th of November, I believe, 10th through the 14th of November. So keep an eye out for more information on that. We're just finalizing some things, but some topics we're going to be talking about are politics and mental health, social media and mental health. We will have Walworth County Health and Human Services coming to talk about overdose response. We've got lots of cool things in the works, so keep an eye out for that. And then I'll be working with Director Linneman on some personal safety promo as well. And for that, I will yield to questions.
Any questions? Senator Mark?
So, Orin, will we have times and dates for, so we know when they are happening?
For the Mental Health Week events?
Yes.
Yes, we just have to work with the committee to finalize some things yet. But as soon as those are finalized, I'll make sure it's disseminated.
Let's give a round of applause for Orin for their hard work.
It's
Any other questions? Once, twice? Seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of our Director of Communications. Director Linneman.
Good evening, y'all. So last week I met with my committee, made a few homecoming posts, which hopefully you all saw on Instagram with cartoon look-alike. I also filmed a few TikToks, and then this week I'll be meeting with Clerk West regarding senator election, having a one-on-one with Director Smith for Mental Health Week and personal safety, having a one-on-one with Vice President Bain, and then also filming some more TikTok content that will be posted pretty soon this week. And with that, I yield to any questions.
Any questions for Director Linneman? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of our Deputy Clerk. Steve West.
Hey y'all, last week was some meetings, the elections committee did meet to go over a request for an extension on signatures, which the request was overall denied. This week is Senate elections on 28th and 29th, you'll get it in your email from Warhawks. The preliminary violations hearing is on Wednesday, the 29th at 5 p.m. All violations are due to me by 9 a.m. Thursday virtually or on paper in the violation box outside the office. The final notification of violations will be sent out by 10 a.m. by me this Thursday. And then 6 p.m. Thursday, we will be having our violation hearings and ballot counting. And if you have any questions, please email me, and the agendas for elections will be sent out tomorrow, most likely. That I yield.
Any questions for Madam Clerk, Deputy Speaker Patrice?
You say in your report the request was denied. Can you just detail if it was denied by you or by the committee or what that process looked
The
like?
committee kind of discussed the request, so I had an idea of what like other people want to go off of, and overall they seemed against it, which I decided to take their opinions and deny it myself. But there was no vote that was made during the meeting.
So,
Senator Martin?
So we cannot have, I understand this rule, we cannot have election talk in the office, but then there's no other election talk for the student government to actually know, how do you do this? How do you figure out strategy so we actually try to build up the communications and the whole broader student government? I understand elections are competitive and we should respect that, but also another part of election is to get to know the whole student body. And if you can't talk about the office, we should have a designated time for the student government to actually discuss elections. How do we say get your message out to all of us in a bipartisan manner? That could be a time within this area and within the student government and things like that. Because it's a kind of, I've been, yeah.
Well, I offered a information session and some like unofficial ones as well and I had many of them with many senators in the room currently of how to run, and I went over the section 11 of our standing rules, which explains the process for everything. It's kind of up to the your own person to figure out how you want to go about running, and if you decide you want to campaign or anything like that. I just offered the more like technical side.
Sorry
of
about
it.
my criticism here. I'm sorry about that.
I have a question. Is it true that despite being in the office, if I had a question, I could ask you for clarification about like tangible details, how to run an election, what that might look like, if I'm on the ballot, running, writing candidate, etc.
Yes. If you have any like clarifying questions, you can ask me in the office, or you can ask a member of the elections committee or Advisor Logan.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
You apologize. Any other questions, Senator Tom?
Just to clarify, as like current senators or in the Senate, what's our status on voting? Are we still allowed to vote, or is there some sort of limitation? We are? Okay.
You can vote when the link comes out.
I would go as far as to say a civic duty to do so. Director Smith?
If there's someone who wants to vote but for some reason doesn't receive the ballot in their email, where should they go?
You can contact me. I will have paper versions of the ballot, which you can then put, like, I will give it to you, you can fill it out. Then it will go into an envelope, which you will seal and sign over, and then that will go into our locked box, which will be opened by the elections committee during ballot counting.
President Brennan?
Is it true that you're allowed to vote for yourself, even if that means writing your name in?
Yes, that's very true.
President Brennan?
Is it true that members of the elections committee are going to try to be more present than normal in case you have any questions regarding logistics about the election?
Yes, that's also true.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move on to the report of our Senate parliamentarian, Reaver.
Hi everyone. So I just wanted to remind everyone that your first outreach event while I'm parliamentarian is due on October 30th. So please be sure to complete that. The guidelines for the outreach events were sent out by email from my personal email earlier, but they're also linked in last week's report and this week's report. Email me if you have any problems or need a little bit extra time. I'm trying to be as flexible with everybody as possible.
Any questions? Going once. Senator Martin?
How often could an outreach event be a set up a table at the busy times during the dining hall, and then I have people say, "Go up to me and let's communicate." That could be an outreach event.
I mean, I think that would definitely kind of fall in the purview. Tabling is already an option, and I think that's pretty standard for what, as long as you do it for the required amount of time. Ultimately.
Alright. I would note that if we're gonna table, let's ensure that we're in line with all standard practices. So if you're gonna table inside the building, make sure you have permission to do that in that space, the relevant stakeholders. Okay, wonderful. With that, we will move. Any other questions? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move on to the report of our Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Nick Patricus.
Happy Monday, everyone. Had a couple meetings last week. I want to thank everyone who attended Operations, our Student Affairs Operations Director, search screening, whether that's a student interview or a campus tour. It was a great help this morning when we finalized some of those pros and cons, our strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, and then a lot of you got emails from me last week about office hours you might have missed. If I was discussing business, enough of those emails might have been sent to be a walking forum. Luckily, no business was discussed. So just fill out that form if you missed an office hour and you got an email from me. Any questions about that? I yield.
Any questions? Senator Trump.
You said we have to fill out a form if we miss?
Yeah, it should be in your email.
Yeah, I saw it, but I remember clicking on it and it was like, what day did you work? It was like the same one in the office.
Yeah, it's
and
the
I
same
was
one.
like, so what would you like me to put there?
Just the day you did your office hour? Or
Like the day I missed my office hour?
So if you did an office hour during the week, like you did an office hour last week but didn't submit the form, you can still go back and submit the form.
Oh, I thought you were saying the office hour we missed, we still have to submit a form for like we missed.
So if you did one but forgot to fill out the form, that's what it's for.
Oh, that's what it is, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice, seeing none, with that will be my report. So normal meetings, last week, cabinet, that kind of thing. Focused on homecoming quite a bit. I did not go to the Constitutional Revision Committee. I did submit my pros and cons to the chair, one of which I was very proud of the con that I drafted. It was very extensive. I haven't touched base about it yet, but I plan to. This week, Doug and I had a meeting regarding the possible establishment of a green fund on campus with two folks from SAGE, and advise them on kind of what routes might make the most sense to them. And one of those things that I advised them that they might do is reach out to some WSG senators, which might happen in a few weeks. So if some of the folks who we spoke with today reach out, they say they're from SAGE, keep your ears open, and if that's something you're super interested in, keep your ears open and express interest early if they reach out. Not sure they will, but I figured I would leave that with you all. I'll be attending the Campus Safety Committee on behalf of President Bradley this week, and we're doing some notes and some more guiding advisory stuff. Committees, as always, are updated on the current WSG roster sheet. Take a look at them. We've moved some things around within the last week as well. Put some folks on committees that they couldn't meet because of class or whatever. Again, if that's the case, let me know. But it seems like we're getting to the point where, I'm trying to jinx myself, everyone is in the places they should be. Your friends. That's not the case. Continue to give me a nice gentle nudge. That was a non-gentle nudge, President Brennan.
Sure.
Any questions for myself? Once, or twice, seeing none. With that, we're on to unfinished business, of which we have none, so we're in new business. S25-2602, resolution formally atoning for the past organizational harms. Submitters, you have the floor whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Go back to when I was building it.
Flashback.
All right, for you all have the legislation and supporting documents in front of you in the packet in some way, shape, or form virtually. So as it comes to my proponent speech, I will not be reading through the legislation. I want to give some historical background and context for how this legislation came to be. This began more than a year ago when I was looking through a binder of historical documents in the Pride Center and came across the report attached as Addendum 1. They're actually out of order. So there's the report and there's a petition. As well as the petition attached as Addendum 2, I did some digging and found out the historical context. In 1993, the Gay, Lesbian, and Bisexual Student Union, which I'll refer to as GLBSU, requested a budget of $900 from SUFAC. SUFAC recommended a budget of $600, which the GLBSU agreed to. Upon reviewing recommendations, a member of the Whitewater Student Association Senate, which is what would then become Whitewater Student Government, stated that, quote, "There is no reason why this group, which is wrong, should get any money." The WSA Senate spent 50 minutes total deliberating on all other groups, and around 95 minutes deliberating solely on the GLBSU's request. Eventually, a recommendation was made to grant the GLBSU a $300 budget with the stipulation that the organization must first fundraise $300 on its own. No such stipulation was required of any other student-funded organization. Students responded to this injustice in a few ways. The petition attached as Addendum 2, which is one of my favorite WSG historical documents, as well as a rally of over 200 students, and a report filed with the Student Organization Judicial Board or Student Organization Conduct Board, depending on who you ask and when you ask them, a function of the Dean of Students Office at the time. Following this outcry, the WSA Senate met, reversed their decision, and granted the total recommendation of $600 to the GLBSU. However, the Dean of Students Office conducted an investigation through that conduct process and found the WSA Senate to be guilty of discriminating against the GLBSU and required sanctions. of a 50-minute workshop for Senate members on meeting decorum, a 50-minute workshop for Senate members on GLB issues, and 3 50-minute workshops for Senate members on cultural sensitivity issues, as well as an implementation of a comprehensive fall leadership training program for all Senate members. I have since then spoken with then President of the GLBSU, Kim Symes, to ensure that this legislation was something that she was comfortable with. I also reached out to the Dean of Students Office, as well as the WSG advisor at the time, Ron Buchholz, to see if they had any record that we had completed the required sanctions as determined through the Dean of Students investigation, as our organization has no record of completing those sanctions. No such completion was reported by any of these individuals. I called a meeting of current and former senators who had indicated interest in the topic, as well as myself, in late July, to discuss the legislation, what it would look like, and what it would do. I sent a reminder on October 8th to all members of the then current group to indicate that 10/27, today, was the goal date for submission of the legislation, so that it would be included in LGBTQ History Month. For those of you who don't know, that is October. And I asked all members to complete their parts. Not all of the original group that met was included as submitters in this legislation. This has been a living document, I suppose, as participation had waned and interest had peaked from those who weren't in the original group. What sits before you today is a culmination of all of that historical information and a year's worth of investigation, discussion, and deliberation. This legislation does 3 key things. First, it brings past harms to light within our organization, noting that these are harms that many people have associated with our organization. Second, it requires our organization to coordinate the training sessions that were required by the Dean of Students sanction while still keeping them relevant to today's student concerns. And third, it commits the organization to continue the segment of our yearly legal training that is open to other shared governance groups. And with that, I will move to questions.
Thank you so much. With that, we'll move on to for pros and cons.
Doesn't change the.
This is not a standing rules change.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. I didn't know I was thinking about it.
It's all right. Could be questions.
Yeah, popped right in my head. Anyways, with that, we'll move on to clerical changes. Does anyone have any clerical changes? Clerical edits?
Questions of the time? No, never mind.
Clerical content questions.
Okay.
Deb, speak, please.
There's a few letters that, in my opinion, seem randomly capitalized. Like the third whereas, the segregated University Fee Allocation Committee, the is capitalized. So the on November 29th, yeah, those. I guess my clerical edit would be fix those. But I guess I could also ask the submitters if that is intentional.
I can say that some of the people who were writing legislation were new to writing legislation. So if the clerical edit is to standardize capitalization throughout the piece, we would accept that as friendly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Just as a quick added section, this is also like Warren said, a group living document. And so this was not just our collective writing, this was the writing of everybody, which I'm really happy that we were able to do, because this also gave a lot more people the opportunity to actually get their hands dirty and get into that writing process. Clerical errors, I think, are part of the course. And so it's all a learning process.
Thanks so much. If the clerk could record that as friendly. Any other clerical edits, Deputy Peters?
Can I ask a question that might be for clerical? Not about the topic, but about
As long as it's not about content, sure.
in the third whereas, are you talking about the current SUFAC or about the SUFAC in 1999? 93, sorry.
I believe that is to refer to, it's to explain what SUPAC is to those who are reading this document. So a bit of both, I suppose.
I only asked that because the makeup of SUFAC has changed since 1993. I believe then it would have been 9. The earliest I could find was 2001. It was 9. It was 9 up until about 5 years ago. It says 8.
So it seems like the question phrased to the submitters is,
Yes.
are you explaining current SUFAC or past SUFAC? And if it's past, would it be friendly to change it?
Or just change it to student appointees. No number.
I'd be welcome to changing it to just student appointees because it is defining both past and present SUFAC, so that is past.
Yeah, the current pieces.
I would just add though that they weren't all student appointees, as 4 of them were appointed by the deans of each college that existed at the time. So they weren't student appointees. Those students serving on the SUFAC committee maybe, but I don't know that I would say they're student appointed.
I suppose when we were saying student appointees, we were saying they were students who were appointed. And
There you go.
You could say appointed students.
Whatever.
I think simply saying student appointees.
Student appointees.
Sufficient.
Yep, I would just.
Is that figure? Okay, wonderful. If the clerk can record that as friend. Student appointees, so just drop it.
I said I got notes of it too.
Any other clerical edits? Once, when twice, seeing none, with that round of content changes, any content changes? Deputy Speaker Trees?
Same word as class. It says can approve, deny, or change the fee-related budgets. I would argue SUFAC can't approve, deny, or change budgets. So I would move to change it to can recommend segregated university fee-related budgets.
Looking for a second. Second. Senator Schwaffdogel. Second by Senator Schwaffdogel. Motion's on the floor. We're in discussion. I'll give you a discussion immediately. Sure, you can choose if you want.
I mean, that's the whole point of SUFAC is to be a recommendation body. It's delegated that authority by WSG, but it was created by state statute to kind of recommend action to the Senate. Then the Senate can take action.
Any other discussion? I'll go to Senator Marty.
I'm just excited to see this bill pass, honestly, because I can't wait.
Keep discussion relevant to the motion on the floor.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't wait to see this bill pass.
No worries. Advice voting?
Unfortunately, I would not agree with the previous statement because I was here. I wasn't advising student government, but I was here. They did not use the word recommend back there. They do now, and SUFAC was not established by a state statute. Students established SUFAC on our campus because of a state statute. So I think it's a fair representation of what it was like then versus now, because that was quite some time ago. So I think you're experiencing the evolved. I like to see think we all evolve through time, but back then it was as it was represented here.
Yeah, Deputy Speaker Trees.
That was part of my question of if this is this current SUFAC or SUFAC in 1993. And it was the answer was a mix of both. So then, is there a way to change this language so it's not, so it is a mix of both and not just one or the other?
Advice voting?
If you look at all the documentation from that time, it says SUFAC approved, and then it goes to WSG or WSA approval. And looking at the documentations from that back, I think it's, to me, as a person maybe that has some insider information, when I look at it, it is talking about the SUFAC of that time, and it's not making a comparison to the current SUFAC process. So, but I'm sure someone could come up with a fabulous amendment that maybe just adds the SUFAC at the time, or it says prior to this meeting, SUFAC at that time recommended, right? It could be adding at that time in certain locations to delineate the difference between the two, but I can't make that amendment or an amendment to an amendment, so I'll just leave it at the body to make those changes.
Our motion on the floor is to change, can approve, deny, or change the fee-related budgets to recommend. recommend segregated university fees. Are there any other discussion items on that? If not, I can say, given what I just heard, I'm probably a little uncomfortable with voting yes on it, but maybe I'm in a place where it can still change. Senator Martin?
Can we? I wanted to ask Orrin this. Orrin, I want to get this. I want to ideally get this passed because we need to make sure to hold ourselves accountable.
Senator Marty, if we can keep discussion relevant to the motion on the floor, which is currently to change and approve, it's not talking about the bill as a whole, it's talking about just this clause of the bill right now.
Oh, right. So the grammatical errors of the bill.
Technically, this is content, but.
Okay, content, not craft.
Any other discussion? No. Going once? Senator Root?
So it says in the end, therefore be it finally resolved, the Senate of the WSG shall coordinate with PD Forum.
If you could keep discussion relevant to the current motion on the floor.
Which is the bill itself?
The clause. So this clause can approve, deny, or change the fee-related budgets. Changing it to, I don't want to get your wording wrong.
Recommend segregated university fees-related budgets.
Okay.
Was your statement?
It was not.
Any other discussion on that before we move into a vote on changing? Okay, Senator Booth?
Is it true that they can't edit the budgets that are presented?
To stay as neutral as possible, I would.
I don't know. Whoever knows.
Yield to Advisor Bilgan. I think it's in limbo, but.
If you're talking about in 1993, that's exactly the words that if you read the minutes, if you go back in the red books that are still in the office, I think, probably not that far back, right? SUFAC approved or modified what was asked of them, and then it was sent to the Senate. It was different than what you do now where you can make adjustments. Back then it was an appeal. If the student didn't like it, or student government can, as you also can in several weeks, make any change that you care to within the law and a viewpoint neutrality action. So it's very similar, but it was different then.
To maybe also ask a question that might provide some context. Is it fair to say that you just said that clause accurately represents the CPAC process of the time?
Yes.
And the amendment might more accurately represent the CPAC process of today?
I would believe it fits in both contexts, but applied differently. So yes, I do believe it's accurate.
Okay. Deputy Speaker Cheese?
Whoever's driving, can you highlight the that in addition to what you highlighted? But can I offer it's my motion, a friendly amendment?
Yeah, absolutely.
To what is currently highlighted, to instead read which now recommends segregated university fee and let's say SUF related budgets.
Okay, so the new amendment is exactly what was just spoken by Deputy Speaker Rodriguez. That's the motion on the floor. Is there any other discussion on that motion? Once or twice? Seeing none, with that we're going to move into a roll call vote on changing that can be approved, that can approve, deny, or change the fee-related budgets to which now recommends segregated university fee, SUF-related budgets of all student organization records. Does that make sense to everybody? We're moving to the vote. Okay, a vote of aye would be a vote to change what is highlighted to what I just read. A vote of nay would be a vote to keep it the same. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, would you please call the roll?
Senator Carter,
Nay.
Senator Giannetti,
Aye.
Senator Giley,
Aye.
Senator Lane,
Aye.
Senator Weaver,
Aye.
Senator Marty,
Nay.
Senator Patricus,
Aye.
Senator Purnell,
Nay.
Senator Riebert,
Okay.
Senator Reyes,
Nay.
Senator Schmidt,
Aye.
Senator Schrocknagel,
Aye.
Senator Thompson,
Aye.
Senator Vanderhyde.
Aye.
Speaker Wilson.
Aye. And with that, a vote of 9 to 5, the amendment passes. Are there any other content changes? Once, Deputy Speaker Patrice?
In the same vein, can I ask a question that I did do?
Indeed.
At the very end, it was the joint responsibility of the WSG President, Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Parliamentarian, and Student Affairs Director. If, let's say, one person who has a vested interest in this, let's say, for example, the Student Affairs Director, takes charge of that planning and then does it, is now a failure of the other 4 positions? Are they failing in their duties if they don't assist?
I would say no. I think the intent of this is to ensure that no matter which side of the house, for lack of better phrasing, this ends up with, it gets done. And it would be then up to that group of people to determine what exactly these look like.
Senator?
So with that same part of the bill, will these 50-minute workshops, how did you get the idea that
If this question is not going to lead to a relevant content change, could you wait till questions?
I can, yeah.
Any other content changes? Going once? Twice? Deputy Speaker Patrice?
Is it possible to make it just the President and Speaker who then may delegate?
I think that this legislation belongs to the Senate, and when it hits the floor, and if you would like to make that amendment, you can make that motion.
Any other content changes? Advice vote?
I don't know if I'm supposed to ask it in the form of a question or not. Sorry, my brain is cramping. I think one of the benefits of having both parts of WSG present is that the Student Affairs Director typically would have existing relationship with all the people that would serve as resources to provide the education. Because I do believe the intent is to make sure that those trainings and workshops are to be a joint responsibility with those people as well as the institutions, as it is a joint process to make an environment where people belong.
Advice vote? Any content changes? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, without moving to questions, are there any questions? Senator?
Where did you, so with these trainings, what gave you the idea that this is what needed to be put in place for it to not happen again?
Thank you, Driver. As I mentioned in my proponent speech, these almost exactly align with the sanctions WSA was given by the Dean of Students Office, of which there is no record of us completing.
Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, alrighty, wonderful. Then as is customary with an S-bill, I know some of y'all have joined us and this is your first S-bill ever. S-bills for us mean action, it means it's a 2-week process. So we've gone through clerical edits, we've gone through content changes, we've gone through questions. We will now pause this bill and bring it back up next week for discussion and then a final vote. Sound good, everybody? Alrighty, wonderful. So with that, we will move on to item BS 252603, creation of the Records and Archives Committee. Submitters, you walk on up to the podium. You have the floor whenever you're ready.
Okay, so an S-bill is. You can drive, yes, sir. Thank you.
Can you drive 55?
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. We were doing some perusing of the standing rules couple weeks ago. And notice there is a communications committee, there's a student affairs committee, and there's an academic affairs committee, which the primary function of all those committees is to help the directors with completion of their goals. You notice the clerk has a committee, but it's the elections committee. It's not really in the committee's purview to help the clerk, right? So what Danny did is sat down and typed up, created the RAP, the Records and Archives Committee, RAP for short. Also, there is some other generic committee changes that made sense and fit in with this legislation. A lot of this is rewriting what is currently exists, but it's just more detail. E is new here, and I can provide a little context of this. That there are up to three committees that can have not members of the Senate on them. So, president, vice president, and then directors, internal evaluation committee, constitutional revision committee, and elections committee. And for senators, there is a kind of process for if someone misses, you get an unexcused absence, right? You're all familiar with that. You get up to 4. That does not exist for executive board members or for executive officers. So just kind of help with committee's functioning. We want to put that in there. And then same with 8.2 here. This is all just a kind of rewriting. I would argue it's clerical. This in there, it's just kind of, if you look currently, it just mentions we'll elect the chair, we'll elect the chair. And we'll elect the secretary, we'll elect the secretary. So it just kind of cleans up the language a lot. And then right here, this is what my assumption, how I operated currently, right? The CRC does not have a chair who sets up that meeting. So right here, I just added the speaker, deputy speaker will organize. This has long been my practice. I scheduled a CRC meeting this semester, last semester, actually this semester before that as well. And then Records Advisory, or Records and Archives Committee will consist of the parliamentarian, 3 senators, the clerk, who will chair it, will oversee management of WSG historical records, minutes, agendas, things like that. We'll develop and maintain standardized templates and procedures for minute taking and agenda creation to ensure consistency. A lot of it is just helping the clerk. I think this last time really sums up what the committee does. Will be responsible for assisting the clerk with the completion of their duties, however the clerk shall see fit.
I guess the only thing I'll add is that there's paper copies of this legislation if anybody would like to take a closer look at it, or should they have any questions. Should anybody have any questions, they're free to come just talk to Deputy Speaker, shoot this one myself.
All right, wonderful. With that, we'll move in. Wonderful. With that, we'll move into clerical edits. Are there any clerical edits for the legislation? Deputy Speaker Patrice.
I have just one, and it is right here. You can just add a little comma, except ex officio members, comma.
I'm going to assume that that's from you. All right, wonderful. That can be recorded by the clerk. Any other clerical edits? Senator Marty?
Hey Nick, how do you get so good at grammar?
All about
Years of practice.
that. Any other clerical edits? Going once, going twice. Senator Pell.
I move to add, in the event of, between the words as and in section 8.1b, such as in the event of an insufficient number.
Can you ask me to restate that?
Oh, I see, yeah.
So it would say such as in the event of insufficient number.
Can we take that as friendly?
Yep, you absolutely
It's
can.
very friendly.
That can be reported as friendly. I would like to add something to the body real quick. We've talked a lot about the clerk tonight, particularly on this piece of legislation. It would help the clerk a lot if you could write down exactly what the wording for your amendments are going to be. So that after the meeting, you can come maybe rip that off your piece of paper, drop that off to the clerk, WebEx her, whatever that looks like. It just means that Sadie doesn't have to go back and comb through the exact meeting recording to figure out what your wording was. That would be huge. We appreciate you immensely. Any other clerical edits? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, wonderful. With that, we'll move into content changes. Are there any content changes? Director Smith?
I guess point of inquiry.
Yep.
Would you prefer to hear CRC recommendations prior to content changes?
Thank you so much. I almost forgot. Now, so as is customary with every S-bill that affects the standing rules, the Constitutional Revisions Committee, as dictated by the standing rules, makes a list of pros, cons, and organizational impact that those standing rules changes affect. And the chair of the Constitutional Revisions Committee, Director Smith, now has the list up and is going to read them.
So the way the Constitutional Revisions Committee works is that we go through the committee and do a series of pros and cons. So I've summarized them here and I'm going to run through them, beginning with the cons and ending with the pros to end on a bit of a lighter note. There are kind of four main cons. Section 8.1 could cause confusion or issues if executive board members approve unexcused absences. There is already an existing accountability system for executives through the function of being hired by the president. Sorry, there are three for that. And it was mentioned that clarification would be appreciated on whether terms like executive officers / executive board include when e-board members are ex officio members on a committee, so they don't count towards quorum, they aren't required to be present. There was a request for more clarification. And then in a summary of the pros, this establishes a helpful and efficient committee structure, reduces workload for the clerk by creating an organized system. It equips the clerk with tools that are comparable to other executive board members. It provides accountability for executive board members who are involved in internal committees. It aligns the system more closely with Senate committee processes, helps educate senators and improve collaboration between them and the clerk, clarifies that committee changes don't need Senate approval, which improves efficiency. It creates a clear leadership reference point and timeline, and establishes digital documentation for senators drafting legislation. So something else to clarify is that when there are differing opinions on the CRC, we are not there to create a consensus. We're there to present all of the opinions of all of the people who are on CRC. So that's why you might hear some things listed as both a pro and a con. With that, I yield.
Alrighty, wonderful. With that, we'll move to content changes. Are there any content changes? So, no.
I move to add to the end of 8.1C the words, or until otherwise modified by the speaker.
Look for a second. I'll second. With that, we are into discussion on the motion.
This is.
Can you rephrase? Can you say again for the body what the motion is?
It adds to the end of 8.1C the words, or until otherwise modified by the speaker. This, I feel, reflects the ability of the speaker to change these committee assignments without the need for a new appointment, and reflects that the alterations made by the speaker are still valid.
Any discussion? Any other discussion, I guess I should say? I think it makes sense to me. That's some additional clarification. Samir?
I like it in that it like would increase the speed. However, I do like the check on the speaker that it would put, as currently written, that the speaker needs to bring committee assignments before you all approve. Rather than just appointing people with really no oversight.
I would ask a question. Go ahead.
I agree with the sentiment, however, as written in 8.1b, the speaker, after the approval is made, is able to alter the appointments without further Senate approval. This change would reflect that.
Yeah, to me, this walks the line between clerical and content. I think it is content, but it really just reflects what is previously stated in B. Any other discussion? When once submitted?
I'm seeing the process here, and please correct me if I'm wrong. How this would change it, this is how I intended it to change or to read, is that the speaker comes to you all, the Senate, with committee assignments, and then if changes happen, such as people resign or new people are added to the Senate, then the speaker can put people on those without having to re-come back every week. And then those committee appointments are in effect until the next semester when new committee appointments would be appointed. So if meetings like over the summer or over winter break, which I've had before, then you're still on that committee until you're not anymore. Maybe I'm just confusing what you're asking.
Yeah, I would ask a question. Does that reflect the way the process would still work in your head?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So would I be going too far and say that you're just adding clarity?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Any other discussion? Once, twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move into a roll call vote. But before we do, if I could have the senator please restate the motion in exact words, just so the Senate has it.
And to the end of section 8.1c, the words "or until otherwise modified by the speaker."
All right, wonderful. A vote of aye will be a vote in favor of adding that clause. A vote of nay will be a vote against. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, would you please call the roll?
Senator Carter?
Aye.
Senator Janetti?
Aye.
Senator Geely?
Aye.
Senator Lang?
Nay.
Senator Lieber?
Aye.
Senator Marty?
Aye.
Senator Patricus?
Nay.
Senator Purnell?
Aye.
Senator Reber?
Aye.
Senator Reyes?
Aye.
Senator Schmidt?
Aye.
Senator Schrocknagel?
Aye.
Senator Thompson?
Aye.
Senator Vanderhyde?
Nay.
Speaker Wilson?
Aye. And in a vote of 12-3, the amendment passes. Are there any other content changes? President Brown?
I'd like to entertain a motion to strike 8.1D. I don't see any relation to the creation of the Records and Archives Committee, and I think it's pork that taints a good idea and a good piece of ledge.
Looking for the motion to be entertained for once. Senator Purnell?
I will entertain that motion. I think it is fair to include it into this piece of legislation, but I do not feel that it belongs. I don't think it's in poor taste of them to include it, but I do not believe that it is something that should be included.
Wonderful. Looking for a second. Going once, going twice. See none, the amendment is died. Any other content changes? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move into questions. Are there any questions for Ms. Lee? Senator Purnell?
For 8.1, let's say a member of the executive board has 2 or more unexcused absences, but they are essential to the operation of this committee. For example, if a associate director of academic affairs, for example, got 2 unexcused absences from the academic affairs committee, would it be fair to, or would this piece of legislation remove them from this committee that they are chairing?
Question.
I believe it says in here, but if not, is understanding that committee chairs can excuse absences in committees. So if I'm chair of a committee and I miss something, I could excuse myself.
What I'll add is that right now, unexcused absences are subject to approval by the chair of any committees. So should an e-board member be on a committee and miss something, it is always up to the chair of that committee. And I think that in most instances, an absence is excusable.
Would this still apply if they were not a chair of the committee? For example, something like the Senate Leadership Committee requires some executive members. Would this legislation bar them from participating if they accumulate that many absences?
Using that example of Senate Leadership Committee that you did, the president is the only non-senator on that committee, who is an ex-officio member, and we made a carve out for ex-officio member. That's all that term.
Any other questions? Any questions? Once? Director Smith.
Simply to expound a bit upon the previous question, 2 previous questions. If, for example, there were 2 co-chairs of a committee, one of them, I'm going to continue using academic affairs as an example, who for some reason were in a tiff for 2 weeks. One of the members does not attend, the other chair assigns them as unexcused. What would this legislation do in that instance?
I mean, again, I think that's less of an issue addressed by this legislation and more of an issue addressed by that committee's chair as a whole. I think if you're a co-chair of a committee, you generally have a good enough relationship with your co-chair to know why an absence occurred. And I think that's a discussion to be had rather than something solved by legislation.
Any other questions? Once? Twice? Seeing none, wonderful. With that, just like the last one, as it is an S-bill, we'll pick it back up next week. And thus, we are on to announcements. Are there any announcements?
I would yield to Dr. Sandblake if I forget anything, but y'all are maybe too young to really appreciate the amazingness, funness of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You haven't lived until you've lived through it. It'll be interesting because some of us old farts are gonna have to teach new people how to do it. Happy to do the time warp with y'all. Please make sure you check out that collaborative event between Impact and UC Live this Thursday. So Rocky Horror Picture Show, best way you can spend the night before Halloween.
7 o'clock in the Hamilton room.
Thank you. The parts I can remember.
So it's that time for advising, so if you do have holds, make sure you remove those before you get to your enrollment time, then you realize you have to do that. So just a reminder.
3 things. First, I was going to mention the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So
Sorry.
I do resent the claim that only old people know that.
Thank you, I appreciate the correction.
Second, please complete the safety walk survey and ask your constituents to do so. And third, there will be a campus Veterans Day ceremony on Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. From 9:45 to 10:45, there'll be in the Roberta's Art Gallery. And following the exhibit at 11, they will be in the Hamilton room, commencing with taps at 11 a.m. sharp, is what I see on the flyer here. So if you're interested in going, please be there by 11 a.m. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Please vote in the Senate election. It will be tomorrow, Wednesday, in your email from Warhawk. Email me if you have any questions with it, or come to me if you need the original ballot, and encourage you to vote as well. I want to see a big turnout when we're counting the ballots.
President.
Please come see me or send me an email at WSG with any questions about applying to the next Associate Director of Student Affairs.
Director Smith?
A reminder to the Student Affairs Committee that we are meeting tomorrow morning.
Senator Ryan?
As noted in Vice President Bain's report, the WSG and LIT Jitters takeover is next Wednesday, the 5th. We would love as many WSG people there as possible. That being said, if you don't live in Wells, you will probably need someone to let you in. And then the parliamentarian is free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that will count as an outreach event for everyone.
So is it this week?
No, it is next week, the 5th.
Okay.
Parliamentarian Reorg.
And so, that the WSG and LIT Jitters Takeover will be counted as an outreach event on November 5th at 8. And then the curricular innovation workshop that Abby mentioned also is kind of an outreach event. Try to ensure that you're interacting with constituents. Yeah.
Senator Good?
So we have the outreach event due by the 31st. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to use the 30th, sorry. What? Are we able to use the one on the 5th?
You are able to use the one probably on the 5th and the 31st as long as you email me before the 30th. Okay. You're going to one of those events.
Any other announcements? I have one, and it's that I will be sitting right here until 8:45. So if you have any questions for me, I'll be ready. Director Rice.
If you do plan to come to the workshop this Friday, please let me know as soon as possible so that I can email Dean Vic to let him know that there will be other students there. Thank you.
Wonderful. With that, are there any other announcements? Going once, twice, seeing none, with that, we'll move on to adjournment. Make a motion to adjourn. Senator Reyes. Seconded by Senator Mark.
Second.
Wonderful. Can I get a voice vote?
Acclamation.
Any opposed? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, we're out of here at 8:42.
Hey Sam, I'll go out to Impact. I just have to leave a little early. The reason why is I have two more Democrats.
Anybody got anything for?
Guys, after a quick sec. Thank you. I walked for outreach
You want the priority to be sent up? That's over.
Yeah.
The priority.
I never got
Make it back for it. Yeah.